today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for an IRL Go tournament. As we know, there are three main decks: Chaos Turbo,
Warriors,
Anti-Meta Warriors, and Goat Control. There are a couple of outliers like Panda Burn, Cold Wave Monarchs, Recruiter Chaos also.
and don't forget Reasoning Gate.
What about Chaos Turbo? What do we have to say?
Yo, Chaos Turbo, I think you're brain dead if you play Chaos Turbo. No, I'm just joking. That couldn't be less true, actually. There's a very distinct difference between a good Chaos Turbo player and a bad Chaos Turbo player. Just dissecting the deck real quick. BLS, hectic card. The deck is so consistent because it's playing Upstart, Thunder Dragons, Jar of Greed.
A lot of draw cards.
Like, a lot of draw cards, yeah. I think what makes the deck really terrifying is that it's able to just run away with the game in terms of advantage. They can take a lot of damage. I cannot begin to tell you how many games I've lost where they're on 100 life points, but now they just have 11 cards and I have nothing, and cool, you're dead.
Yeah, and like 3 of them are solemns.
Yeah, so I personally would put it at the top of the pyramid, but it is a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors.
If we're talking about only the top 3, it beats Goat Control, whereas Goat Control's better against Warriors.
I agree.
But Warriors are better against Chaos Turbo.
Yeah, just because of all those traps and all the like face down removal.
They're the Goat deck that has the most face down removal in any Goat deck. We have Triple Blade Knight, we have 1 to 2 copies of Mystic Swordsman level 2.
I mean, Exiled Force as well, plus Rotors to search, like, you know, pick your poison.
Yeah. With obviously standard Nobleman of Crossouts. If you take a couple of Blade Knight hits,
You die.
Yeah.
Hopping back to the Chaos Turbo, that's why it's not a tier 0 format. The deck definitely can be beaten, and I do think it takes a good pilot to...
100%.
Yeah.
With regards to Goat Control, how that deck works, so it slows down your opponent's monsters with Scapegoat, not allowing them to do immediate damage. And then as soon as they're able to, they can change one of their Goat tokens to Thousand Eyes Restrict, which is an incredibly oppressive monster. It's the only thing that can attack or change its battle position, so your opponent's busy umming and ahhing.
And the amount of advantage that single Thousand Eyes can get you, your opponent is spending cards to out it, and like, until they can out it, the Goat Control player is just there, getting advantage in the background.
And I mean, setting Scapegoats isn't much of an investment into a board. We can see that they're just playing one card immediately gets them 4 tokens. They're not offering to lose a lot. Stall quite a bit, and then when the big powerhouse does come down, being Thousand Eye, you're facing some monster that you can't just summon a Blade Knight into, you can't just summon a Warrior Lady into.
It's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
it's just going to sit there.
Especially if they've got Tsukiyomi, which is good for a Goat Control player to have, but also it's one of its weaknesses as well.
Decks that can main deck Tsukiyomi puts them
very powerful.
Very powerful, because I mean, Tsukiyomi outing Warriors, Goat Control, sure.
Ways to beat Goat Control: you can hit the Scapegoats with the Dust Tornado on the end phase. Good old piercing Air9 Pasha. Some people are playing King Tiger Wang, who Azura Priest, just to deal with all the Scapegoats. One of the things that makes Goat Control a little bit weaker is that people know about the Thousand Eyes Restrict.
Yeah.
So they'll have a set book, they'll have a set ring ready for your Thousand Eyes to target your monster. Then they chain the book or the ring.
Yeah.
And your Thousand Eyes is either gone or useless. So our elephant in the room, shall we talk about Anti-Meta Warriors?
Anti-Meta Warriors, let's go.
Very powerful deck. Looking at their starting lineup, they really hate any kind of deck that Chaos monsters with Thousand Eyes monsters. We've got the Triple Blade Knight in the main, stopping any flips. Anything not named Gravekeeper Spy.
Yeah.
And we've got Kaiku's always... Even if you hit over a tribe infecting virus, even if it's only doing 200 damage, that you can banish their SERPs, you can banish their light and dark.
There's a lot you can do.
Yeah.
The deck's very like toolboxy in that regard, I think. Like it just like covers all the bases.
Most lists have 2 to 3 copies of Trap Dash Shoot in the main, so if you combo all of that face down removal with Trap Dash Shoots and Kaiku's, it's really the strongest deck you can play if your main deck fear is Chaos Turbo. I think it deals with Chaos Turbo really well.
Yeah. It isn't by any stretch of the imagination like an autopilot deck. I think like the Warrior player still needs to be pretty good with like how they trade their traps, where they're spending their cards. So it's not very like advantage now kind of.
It's very, very tempo, get onto the board now, deal a lot of damage now, and close it out as quickly as possible. Look, if we had to look at some of their weaknesses, they have a very heavy trap lineup and a very small monster lineup. So if you're outing their monsters with smashing grounds every turn, you bring in a couple trap holes even. If you see that they're not siding in Cliff the Trap Remover, you can bring in multiple copies of Royal Decree.
Yeah.
Most warrior players are prone to either summoning Cliff or summoning Break the Magical Warrior turn 1, which is why Royal Decree is a very obvious set against them and they know about it. So almost every time without fail, my first decree has never worked against them. So you kind of have to
side 3.
So you kind of have to bait them, or maybe set a Torrential first, set a Mirror Force first, and now that you've outed their, the stuff that would out your back row, then you can start setting the decrees.
I guess you can even wait to use the decree and then chain it to one of their traps to negate it, but then you do run into the threat of your decree getting solemned. Because you'd usually want to flip it on their end phase and block all their traps. But if you are scared of Cliff and Friends, and I guess you can set it and chain it to a trap, because then at least you trading before it gets cliffed. But
Jinzo also really good. Jinzo is amazing because Blade Knight isn't getting around that, and they can only exile force you so many times.
It's literally Snatch and Exile Force and
DD Warrior Lady,
DD Warrior Lady, BLS. So there are a couple of outs, but they need to work for it. So Jinzo is really good.
Obviously, a Warrior's able to take a Chaos Turbo matchup very well. We know that Chaos Recruiter is...
Well, that's a bit of a different story.
Yeah, that's a completely different world.
Yeah, because it doesn't lose to the Blade Knights and all of that thing.
They're summoning Mystic Tomatoes, Shining Angels. They don't really have face-down monsters to take advantage of too much. So you'll see a lot of things like normal summon Tomato Pass, and then the opponent will summon Blade Knight set 4.
Yeah.
And they can do stuff like Creature Swap, which is really damaging because that's their monster that's gone, even if they do Sakuretsu Armored, when the Tomato eventually does get killed, you'll get a Sangan. When the Sangan gets killed, they'll have Tsukiyomi, and then Tsukiyomi just puts in so much work. If we look at Kaiku, Blade Knight, Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke, I think every single main deck warrior, even Kaiku's not a warrior, but we call him a warrior. But everything that's not Danzalu, Tsukiyomi's great against. So Tsukiyomi great against Goat Control, it's good against Warrior, it's actually really bad against Chaos Turbo.
It's horrific. Strong side out. Instant side out.
With that said, maybe we should start talking about how to side deck in Goat. When constructing a good Goat side deck, this is IRL, so obviously play in what you predict in your local area. It's not always going to be the same.
You should cover the big 3. The cards you side in for the big 3 will inevitably cover what you need it to. The big 3 and burn.
100%. I would say definitely keep 1 to 2 copies of Tsukiyomi in your side deck. It's going to be good against, as we've just mentioned, it's good against Goat Control, good against Warrior. I would then also bring in some Royal Decrees if your deck can deal with it. If you are Warrior, maybe bring in, we saw some Zing Zenhus are really good.
Dust Tornado is nice, chainable.
Yeah, a Dust Tornado is great. Definitely some life point gaining stuff. We've seen cards from Mystic Walk to
Token Collector,
Emergency Provisions.
Token Thanksgiving.
Token
it, guys.
Always as much back row removal as you can. You never know what level limits you're gonna need to blow up. There's Panda Burn's incredibly strong. They can output a ton of damage. Look, you want to fight Chaos Turbo as well. So we have a couple of good options we can try here. So we have Trap Dust Shoot, Mind Control, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer is also a really good option. Creature Swap, weirdly enough, taking their Dekoichis and using your own Tsukiyomi on it is really good.
It is really good.
I would say
an honorable mention is Soul Release. I've seen that come up in a couple of deck lists. I've tried it once or twice myself. I kind of liked it, but Yeah, it's up to you to kind of like test it out for yourself, see if you like it.
You do go neg 1.
Yeah.
Apart from that though, you don't have to put in the effort into banishing stuff out of your opponent's grave. Like Kaiku, you actually need to get him to connect, which is easier said than done sometimes, especially when there's like a face down spy and a Raigeki break. Yeah. Next, you're gonna need something for OTK decks, so decks that can just blow you out of the water.
Yeah, like Reasoning Gate.
Pretty much only Reasoning Gate.
Just Reasoning Gate.
But maybe Arm Samurai Benkei. Some like Rescue Cats, Cyberstein thing can also get there. Yeah.
So Threatening Roar, really good. And
Boku, same thing.
Yeah, something that Tyler actually like showed me, which I like never even considered, but like through just watching him on DB and just like going to locals and stuff. Karibo.
Yeah, this man.
Karibo.
If you can.
Not too bad.
Yeah, he'll give you a turn. You probably need to follow up with the Tribe Infecting Virus if they're playing the machine version. Otherwise, you need Lightning Vortex because obviously the threats are still going to be on the field. So
I know some of you are probably cringing, but like it genuinely was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a solid hand trap.
Yeah.
If you are particularly facing a lot of decks that do discard a lot of cards from your hand, Electric Snake is insane. I know that a lot of people don't like it. I swear by that card. I think that card's amazing. I've resolved it more often than not.
Yeah, it's nice, I guess, like if they're playing, Spirit Reaper and like everyone's pretty much playing duo. But I'd say, if they're leaning pretty hard into a discard strategy, Electric Snake has seen
some people
some
play.
Good play.
You could play Regenerating Mummy as well, because you do get the Regenerating Mummy discarded and then he adds back to your hand. And what's nice is
you can use him as a beat stick. He's 1/8, right?
Not only that, but he's got 1/5 defense, which makes him Tsukiyomi proof as well. So if you attack and then they book a Moonet, now like they need to summon something stronger than 15, which in Goat isn't very common. It's also a really good card. And as we mentioned before, Azura Priest, King Tiger Wang, who great against
Goat control.
Even
Recruiter Chaos, Azura Priest can be kind of cool because you kind of just force them to float into like DD Warrior Lady or something like that, and you can at least like eat all the recruiters right then and there.
A lot of people do side in Spell Canceller. Because they really do hate spells. Yeah,
I tested it in Reasoning Gate. You can imagine why it wasn't too successful. But Spell Cancel is pretty spicy. Like I've seen it in a couple of Monarch lists because you can kind of just sack your opponent's monster, with like Sword Exchange or something. If you're playing that list, Soul Control.
If you're playing Reasoning Gate Turbo and you want a spell negator, I've personally tested Horus the Black Flame Dragon, level 6 going into level 8. So you side in three 6s and 1 to 2 level 8s. And that thing's insane. When it works.
It starts getting pretty ugly.
You can end up having the Trinity with like
Jinzo, Darkula Hades, and Horus.
So that's like spells, traps, and monster effects. It's crazy. It's awesome when you get it's almost guaranteed win, but
it's pretty difficult to come out of that.
All right, let's jump into some rulings.
Let's hit it.
Alright, so the first ruling we'll talk about is more of a turn player ruling. It isn't really a specific card ruling where you can, if your opponent summons a monster, you're actually allowed to change its battle position as long as you didn't summon the monster. This was clearly at a stage where Goat hadn't fixed that rule. So in this example, we can see a Vampire Lord hitting a Cyberjar. It's going to use its effect to blow up the Vampire Lord and the Cyberjar, and both players are going to look at the top 5 cards. I know the old text says pick up, not draw. Very interesting text. But yeah, as we can see in the example, Magician of Faith is going to get special summoned with a Pyramid Turtle, as well as a Hysteric Fairy in this example. So Lorenzo's going to do some pondering here. He's going to decide to, in the main phase 2, mind control the Magician of Faith. Afterwards, he's going to be able to flip summon the Magician of Faith and then add back the mind control. Or I guess you could add back a Pot of Greed or any other spell that you've previously used. But yeah, the point is, if your opponent summons the monster, you're actually allowed to change its battle position. Alright, so this ruling is going to be dealing with kind of like turn player priority. We do know that when you summon a monster on the field, you can activate its effect immediately as it gets summoned. This also actually applies to cards in the hand. So there's only really one monster that does do it commonly in Goat format, is Thunder Dragon. So here we're going to see an exact example of what happens, and then we'll go through the play-by-play. So Lorenzo activates Pot of Greed. Tyler says okay. He draws a Chaos Sorcerer and a Thunder Dragon. Now, I want to dust shoot out the Thunder Dragon before Lorenzo gets the chance to use it, but he says no, I actually have turn player priority and I get to use the Thunder Dragon. So it's the kind of thing where you have priority, but your opponent doesn't really know that you have priority. So in real world circumstances, and then obviously we can see that now on res, now that he's added the Thunder Dragons, I can then go and dust shoot. So yeah, in the real world example, there are going to be situations where your opponent plays a card and then you're like, oh crap, I wanted to dust shoot here, and then your opponent's like, actually I'm gonna Thunder Dragon priority, and technically that's legal, even though we can see that the player's intention was to legally fire off the Thunder Dragon. So in this example, we're going to be looking at attack declaration and the changes, I would say, in attack declaration. In Goat format, you can actually go and cancel attacks that you've made, which can result in a lot of interesting situations. So in this example, Lorenzo's going to summon Azura Priest. He's going to attack with the Spirit Reaper. I'm going to activate Scapegoat to prevent myself from getting a card ripped out of my hand. I'm going to summon the goats, and then Lorenzo's going to decide to attack all of the goats with Azura Priest. And in Modern, you wouldn't be able to attack with the Spirit Reaper because you've already cancelled the attack. In Goat, if you cancel an attack with a monster, you can still go back and attack it. So I lose a Chaos Sorcerer for that. So this ruling deals with Royal Oppression in general, in Goat format specifically. And we'll be able to see what interactions happen here. So Lorenzo's going to summon Azura Priest, enter battle phase, and then flip the Royal Oppression. He's going to attack that Pyramid Turtle. I'm going to try and use it. Lorenzo's going to say, I use Royal Oppression, but you can't Royal Oppression in damage depth. That isn't specifically Goat legal. You actually can't Royal Oppression in damage depth anyways. So now in the next example, this is another illegal activation of Royal Oppression. This is Goat format specific. I'll special summon a Chaos Sorcerer and he'll try to flip it up and use its effect immediately, which cannot negate non-inherent summons. But if I activate Scapegoat, Lorenzo can flip and activate Royal Oppression to negate the activation of Scapegoat and destroy it. And now that it's face up, he can go and negate the summon of my Chaos Sorcerer because it needed to be face up before. Alright, I hope you guys are all clued up on how to play IRL tournaments. There is actually an event happening this weekend. It is the South African Nationals. Winner of the Swiss rounds, which is the official winner of the tournament, gets a seat to Worlds because it is an official Grand Prix. Afterwards, the players will move on to play a side event, but yeah, the top 8 players will play a single elimination round, and the winner of that event will be awarded a plane ticket to Italy to go and play in one of the Grand Prix up in Italy. Best of luck to everyone attending this weekend. And so, in the words of Maximilian Pegasus, build your decks with creativity, care, and with cunning.